So in the effort to pay more attention to YouTube as a medium, I posted a short video, just asking people to provide questions um, for me to try to answer. And I got a lot of responses, and I'm just going to read through them um, one by one here and try to offer the best response that I can. Let me just pull it up here. So I'll start from the first comments rather than the latest comments. So Marion's Universe asks the following. Assuming your personality survived death in another type of dimension of life, how would you work out the consequences of what you did in physical life? So it's a question about life after death. And not only life after death, but the survival of the personality after death. You know, there could be a kind of continuation of awareness or consciousness or being that wasn't a continuation of our own ego after the death of our physical body. So personally, if I may say so, I don't hold out hope for the survival of my personality. That is, those characteristics or quirks, psychological habits, psychological hang-ups, and psychological strengths that I may happen to possess because of, you know, the parents that I was born to and their social and cultural setting. I think all of that stuff, that historical and biological inheritance, dies when my body dies, and my consciousness then becomes dislodged from the body, which it had been incarnated in and as. It's no longer mine anymore. It's at this point, I think, and I'm seriously trying to speculate on this, and I'll have to provide epistemological justifications for how it is that I come to have this knowledge, right? Because I haven't died yet, but I'm speculating on what happens after death based on an experiential layer of consciousness that we can access while still alive. I can see I've read through all these questions, and I can see already that in attempting to read and answer the first question by Marion's Universe, I'm going to want to touch on every other question that was asked. Someone asked about my psychedelic experiences and if there are any insights, valid philosophical insights that one can take from the psychedelic experience. And I think that the experience of what it might mean to be conscious after death is one of the insights that a psychedelic, like LSD or psilocybin, DMT, it's one of the effects that these types of substances could provide for you, which makes these substances dangerous. But maybe I'll get back to psychedelics. There is, I'm arguing, the possibility for an experience while still alive as a body of life after death. There's an experience of a deeper layer of the universe than the physical body. That, you know, and this is where it starts to sound woo-woo and spiritual and new age, and you know, like I'm some kind of a guru telling you this, but it's really, you know, in 2011 we can't really think of gurus in the same way that, you know, we being the Western American people, most of the people watching this, and Europeans, just the capitalist consumer of the early 21st century, can't conceive of spirituality in the same way that the person, you know, the teenager, the 20-something in the 60s conceived of spirituality, where there was a guru who had it, and you worship them, and maybe they would give it to you if you're lucky. I think in this more contemporary context, understanding who you are is an ecological necessity. So there's a kind of need for a democratization of the spiritual insight, so that we are each other's teachers. And, you know, maybe this is a slightly different moral precept to which one could lead their lives, and that I would. It's not that I am my brother's keeper. Um, you know, rather it's that who I really am is already who you really are, and when we die, that which is lost was never my my true self. And so when we die, it's more like waking up from a dream, I think. And this is sort of ethical precept because it and it's an ethical precept based on an experiential insight that in fact I am not my body. So when we say that I am not my body, and we say it as an experience, not just as a phrase, a nice idea, what we've done is enacted a certain way of life where we're no longer concerned directly, or at least most immediately, for the survival of our individual body. What we're most concerned with then, after having had this experience of dying while still alive, we no longer believe in an ego as some sort of ultimate object. And it's not that sometimes, self-consciousness, as someone else asked about, it's not that an enlightened person would become entirely genuine in the sense that there was no self-consciousness, and self-consciousness, I think, is always anxiety. So really, I wouldn't want to speak about myself as as a spiritual teacher. I'm a philosopher, which is that I'm engaged in these problems of what it means to live according to the good, the principle of the good. It doesn't mean that I'm always capable of achieving that good. It doesn't mean that I'm always in immediate experiential communion with that good. It just means that I know that that good is the truth that I should always be trying to align my consciousness with. I should always be trying to become it. It is my telos, my purpose. I've been there as a state of consciousness, and I haven't brought it back as a stage. But really, why would you want it to be a stage? If the good were a stage that you had achieved and become, you would no longer be becoming, you would be God. You would be being frozen in eternity forever. And I think, the whole point, the whole reason that the universe has a meaning is that it's never identical to itself. That there's not just God, there's not just being. There is the pursuit of, or the becoming of, the universe, God, being. It's always a process of realization rather than a finished product, and that's probably the foundational metaphysical belief, or the foundational metaphysical principle that all of my thoughts are based upon. That we're dealing with a process, something that is essentially creative, not essentially substantial, or fixed, or eternal, or static, or already made. I think the universe is a growing thing. Reality is radically incomplete in a sense, you could say, but it's more so a whole always becoming more than itself. So it's not incomplete because it's always overflowing with creative form, um, and forms of beauty that had never been discovered prior. So um, it's not incomplete in the sense that it lacks this you know overflowing tide um, of creativity, but it's incomplete in the sense that it's never complete. It's never finished and over. So I think this, to get back to the original question, is why there is a kind of life after death. It's not the survival of the ego that we thought we were while we were still alive. Um, that I think is a construct that we're taught, in public and private schools. Just culture provides us with the idea, the abstraction of a separate identity that is identified with the body. And it's not that there isn't a sort of developmental necessity that we do learn and become enculturated to conceive of ourselves as an individual. That's an important cultural achievement. It's just that when it becomes the end point of human development, um, it begins to uh, become pathological. And there's a point at which the human species must be able to overcome. We could say, in terms of Kohlberg, the psychologist's stages of development, of moral development, that we have to move from um, formal to post-formal uh, moral cognition, so that we're not focused just on what's good for ourselves as individuals or as families, but we're concerned for what's good for the entire world, for all beings. Because I think at that level of moral formation of a conscious being, there's been an experience of this as a fact, of the fact that you will die, but that the deeper part of yourself will continue on even after you die. So I guess all of that is an answer to Marion's universe, and it took 13 minutes, so I'm gonna move on to the next question in my next video. Um,